Thank you very much. And that concludes the debate on this point. The next item on the agenda is the statement by the Vice President of the Commission, High Representative of the Union for European Affairs and Security Policy on the new EU strategy on China. Madam Mogherini, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup. I warn you, we have other two debates after this, so our Portuguese friends might leave us around 9, I guess. First of all, Madam President, let me say that I'm glad that after discussing earlier on the global strategy, we now move to our EU strategy on China. Some of you might wonder why we're working on so many different strategies or new strategies. And this is a very simple reason. The world has changed and is changing very rapidly. For us as Europeans, isolation is not an option, and our action cannot be fragmented, cannot be unstrategic. So we need to either update or to develop common visions and common paths for action that are in connection with the reality of today. And last communication on China dated back to 10 years ago, so it was clearly time to come back to this because China's changed and also the European Union and the world has changed. Clearly our relationship with China, one of the world's great powers, is a crucial issue for our future, but actually it is a crucial issue for our present. And next week we will be in Beijing for the EU-China summit. And a number of important China-related matters will need to be addressed in the next weeks and months. This Parliament knows very well, as the two most recent resolutions on China have shown. As I said, we are now in a different place rather than 10 years ago. First and foremost, China is much more of a global player than it was a decade ago. It is more confident, more outward-looking, and more assertive. This new attitude has created some frictions, and we all know that. Asia's security environment today looks more unstable than a few years ago, but China has also sought stronger cooperation with other world powers, including with the European Union, on many global issues. We have an interest in an open, stable, and cooperative China, but China too has an interest, a huge interest, in good relations with Europe. We are their biggest trading partner, and we are an important security provider in Asia, from Afghanistan to the Philippines. So we have a lot to discuss, and we have a lot on which we can and should work together. There is no doubt we need to step up our engagement with China, and this is the core principle of our strategy. European Union engagement with China will be principled, practical and pragmatic. Only if we engage, we will be able to safeguard our interests and also our values in all sectors, from trade to human rights. The communication identifies three main areas of cooperation and engagement. First, the prosperity and reform agenda. Second, common interests on foreign policy and security. And third, global governance and the multilateral context. Let me start with the economy. When we talk about a prosperity and reform agenda, when we talk about promoting a greater opening up of the Chinese market to European business, this is very much about creating jobs and growth in Europe. Trading and investing with China is first and foremost an opportunity for Europe and for European firms. It is part of our work, internally and externally, linking up the work we do inside and outside of the European Union, within the institutions. It is part of our work to strengthen and promote the European economy worldwide, and China is obviously a key actor in that respect. The strategy identifies opportunities, such as concluding an ambitious and comprehensive agreement on investment, a Chinese contribution to the investment plan for Europe, joint research and innovation activities, as well as creating new connections inside the Eurasian continent, both physical and digital, to make trade, investment and people-to-people contacts faster and easier. As we focus on the opportunities, it doesn't mean that we do not see the risks of this new phase. And we all know very well that we're heading towards a delicate moment in our trade relations. China is becoming a more integrated member of the global community, And this means it has to accept the obligations and not simply the benefits of it. And in the meantime, we must also make sure that we act to shield our industry from unfair trade practices. China must make significant and verifiable cuts in industrial overcapacity, notably in the steel sector, but also on aluminium, ceramics and wood-based products. This is something I have made clear in all my meetings with our Chinese counterparts, including recently, just last month, in Brussels, and we will pass this message very strongly next week in Beijing too. It is first and foremost China's economy which would benefit from economic reform, including the elimination of state-induced distortions. On our side, we have to strengthen our trade defence instruments, in particular through the swift adoption of the Commission's Trade Defence Instruments modernisation proposal. Now, in this moment of history, we cannot afford to be a conservative force. We must adapt to change, and most of all, we must drive the change, or at least try to do that. We need better rules to serve our citizens' interests, and we can promote reforms through constant engagement with the wider world. Such reforms include the promotion of human rights, the rule of law, and the role of civil society. And this is the aim of our human rights dialogue with China and of the recently launched EU-China Legal Affairs Dialogue, to support and accompany China's legal reforms. I believe this kind of engagement can make both China and Europe stronger, richer and safer. And this is very clear when we look at the second and third pillars of the communication. In our fragile world, insecurity and instability in East Asia can only spread to the rest of the world. The safety of maritime routes and the respect of international norms concerns the whole international community. So while our Union is not taking sides on specific territorial claims in the South China Sea, we have stated very clearly what our position is, and that is based on our expectation of the full compliance with international norms, especially the role of UNCLOS, and a peaceful solution of any disputes is what we expect, especially in the days ahead. China is also an essential player in other issues, and I've witnessed this firsthand to the positive impact of China's responsible engagement at the negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. And more, think of Beijing's role during the Paris Conference on Climate Change compared with their attitude just a few years ago. China has an essential role to play in Afghanistan. We will work together on this also in view of the conference on Afghanistan we will have in Brussels in October. It is a relevant actor in Africa and in the Middle East. We work together in the International Support Group for Syria, and in the UN framework, obviously, cooperation is strong. On climate action, on migration, on development aid, on all this, the question is not whether we need to engage with China, but rather what is the best way to do so. So a big part of the answer depends on our union, on our unity and cohesion. No one of our member states has the size nor the power to engage, being it in a trade negotiation or in a commercial dispute, with China, leaving alone strong diplomatic efforts on China's role in Asia or in the Pacific. But as a true union, as a European Union, as part of the global G3, as we are united, we can surely do it. Thank you.
Merci.